Good evening. Looks like everybody, well, we have people down here, or we have people in Zoom. So welcome to the November 1st, 2024 Wisconsin NRHS chapter meeting. Should be a good meeting tonight. We have a triple header. We're going to start with a presentation from our friends at the East Troy Railroad, and we have Jim here to do that. And then after that, we're going to have a presentation on NRHS activities from this year, national convention, fall gatherings, spring gatherings. So it should be a great night. We also are thanking East Troy. We had a cake in the back, and it simply said, "Thanks for giving us a ride." I didn't think thanks for taking us on a ride would have gone over very well. May have been a little sharp, but oh well. So please indulge in that because I don't want to have to take it home because then I'll eat it. Okay, so a couple things and then we'll turn it over. I don't want to stand up here and chatter. I just want to say a thanks to those that attended the banquet. It was a really good time. We had an excellent speaker, good food, and it was a very good time. But look for more information to the 75th anniversary banquet next year, 2025. We want to make it a good one. We've already got a location booked for October 11th, 2025. So watch for information on the 4th. I'm sorry. That's right. The first Saturday of the month. Okay. Thank you. So scratch that. October 4th, 2025. Quick note that Train Fest is coming up here in Milwaukee. It took a 1 year off last year. It will be back this year. And if you're interested in being a part of that, please get in touch with Ward. His contact information and email are in Sparks and Cinders that you should have gotten if you want to help out. There's really no shifts. Just tell Ward when you can be there and they'll work out a schedule. It's downtown this year at the Baird Center, which was completely redone. And it's a really, really nice venue. So come down and check it out. Another reminder that the dues are due. And our dues are $20 for chapter dues. And there's a couple ways to pay. If you would have them tonight, Tara's here. And you can give Tara a check. Otherwise, you can mail a $20 check to our P.O. Box. That's Wisconsin Chapter NRHS. P.O. Box 070758, Milwaukee, Wisconsin 53207. Or you can renew online at our website, www.nrhswis.org. That renewal is $21 to help us cover the service fees from Square. Also, tonight in the back, our 75th anniversary clothing is on display. If you're interested, please sign up. We'll sign up. I'm going to put together a big order by the end of the month, hopefully, and get it before Christmas. And we'll make arrangements for delivery or shipping. The prices are back there, so please. And I also put a bunch of information in Sparks and Cinders about the clothing, so please take a look at it. I'm wearing the sweatshirt, the gray sweatshirt, so we have sizes that go from small to 4X, so please do that. And again, a thank you to Tara. She brought a lot of our drinks and refreshments down here, and I picked up the cake. Even though the bakery was closed, they let me pick up the cake, luckily. So that was a good thing. And just to say thank you to East Troy for everything that they do for us and with us. And we have some plans for next year, so watch for that. Having a special event day out at East Troy for the chapter's 75th anniversary. What I'd like to do now is bring on our first presenter. I've known Jim for quite a few years as we work together on charters and things at East Troy. And if you've been on any of our dinner train or our charters, Jim is always around, and there's always a great whether he's the our brakeman or our trainman, he always does a great job. So Jim's going to talk a little bit about the museum and things going on with the museum and a little bit of the history. So I'm going to turn this over to Jim Feyerherm. Thanks.
Here's the deal. My name is Jim Feyerherm, and I'm the operations manager at the East Troy Electric Railroad. And it's just been a joy. Been there since November of 2019, and we don't have to tell you what happened in 2020, but it's just been a joy. It really is. And an organization like yourselves is all about history. We have history in our mission statements that we want to preserve the historical railroad in southern Wisconsin. And I think we do a really good job of that. You guys you take it to the next level. As far as I'm concerned, we do it on a weekend basis, but you guys amazingly do it. And I'm so thankful for organizations like this that could do that. So I'm sure I'm a little intimidated because you folks probably know more history and it could probably give this presentation better than I could and be more detailed, but I'm going to give it a little different twist. So most of you know that the East Troy Electric Railroad was the TMERNL, the Milwaukee Electric Railway and Light Company. And we're thankful for them. Back in 1907, Sam Insull decided that, hey, we're going to make a whole bunch of people get into Milwaukee. So there was 385 miles, as you well know. And East Troy was one of those. That was the end of the line. And here we go. So from 1907 to 1939, the TMERNL took passengers from East Troy into Milwaukee. A lot of those passengers were agricultural folks that they carried a lot of milk, and they did that very well. Now, in 1939, as you all well know, most interurbans had gone under by then, but the TMERNL stayed on, but they had just come to the end. They couldn't make any money. So all those outlying spokes, if you will, were going to be scrapped. Well, the village of East Troy said, can't do that. Oh yeah, we can. We own the railroad. So the village pleaded with the TMERNL, and most of you know that the village bought it. And for $10,000, that's what facts that tell me was 10 grand. They had a referendum, but it was unanimous, and here we go. 1939, let's go to 1972. Now, they didn't get rid of it in 1972, but there were some volunteers that had some trains. Now, these weren't model trains. Keith, sorry about that. They weren't, but they were real trains, big ones, and that they were running north of Milwaukee on some tracks from the Milwaukee Road had given them. But they had this opportunity to come down to East Troy, and I don't want to say partner because they really didn't partner with the village, but they had an agreement that if they would help maintain some tracks and so forth, they could run on the weekends. So on Memorial Day, 1972, first revenue passenger went out, and that's 52 years ago. So now let's go to 1985. So the reason why I'm talking about these dates is I want to go back and talk about the years that the railroads had that were owned and how long they operated. So the TMERNL went from 1907 to 1939. So what's that? 32 years. East Troy ran from 39 to actually 85. That's more. Okay. And now we've run from 85 or from 1972 to 2024. So we've been operating the railroad just almost as long as the village has, and way longer than the TMERNL. But we always start with the TMERNL because that's who started the Sam Insull. So that's just a little bit of history. I'm sure a lot of you folks know that. We're really happy with that. The one thing that I do want to mention is that somewhere in 84, the village says, hey, we can't run this railroad anymore. We're gonna scrap it. And the volunteers says, you can't do that. Oh yeah, we can. We own the railroad. When have I heard that before, right? So, the surprising thing, and I've looked back and I've talked to some folks, and the best that I can see is that the village wanted $74,000 for the railroad that they paid 10 grand. Of course, they did it in 1939. And we know from what history tells us that the volunteers didn't have that kind of money. But because of fine folks and fine donors and a wonderful guy with the president of the Wisconsin Southern, Save the Trolley Day, they raised $85,000. And as I understand it, the January meeting of the board of the village hall, the village sold the railroad to us. Now, we also know that there was a whole bunch of changes within that time. And there was some dark times. At least I call them that. That's my personal opinion. But we've come out of those dark times, and now we've got lots of cars, and we're getting along really, really well. It was in those dark times, and as those first volunteers, that they had a whole bunch of cars. And now we're going to slip into this. And where am I going to go with this? I'm going to go right there. I'm not going to take credit for this, nor is anybody at our organization. Frank Hicks and Jeff Hackner have done an incredible job, as you well know, keeping track of not only the cars that we have, but just about every historical car in the country, where they were, who had them, where they go, where are they now. And we've got some stuff that's surviving. We know that there's been some that have been scrapped, and we know that other cars that we still have. I have 43 slides. I'm not going to go through all of them, but I'm going to go through them kind of quick. But and the reason why I'm going to say this is because this is the amount of equipment that has come through this museum. And it is incredible. There's all kinds of equipment. And as you see, as I'm whipping through here real quick, there is a mixed bag. Now, I was present when the 203, the slide on the right, left. That was an incredible day. And lots of partnerships, lots of swapping, lots of, hey, I've got this. Hey, you've got that. Can we get it? And we know that there is just a lot of these cars out there. But I was pointed out by one of our dear volunteers, and just as you well know, that these cars, these things are not made anymore. Us, places like IRM, places like Fox River, places like Mid-Continent, places like the Pennsylvania Rail Museum, Seashore, preserve these cars, because once they're gone, they're gone. And so I'm just going to whip through here. There's one specific car that I'm going to get to, that one. So I guess I've got the microphone, and I can have a forum. I'd sure like to see that back at East Troy, because that's a car that ran from East Troy into Milwaukee just about each and every day. And that's M15. And I guess I'd love to see it back where it is. It's kind of unique if you look at the car. There's not an awful lot to it, but that's what hauled most of the freight during that time from 1939 to 1985. The village did that, and then they had some diesels that they ran. So that was important to me, and I think it's important to you folks. And again, most of you could probably tell this history a lot better than I could, because I'm more of the operations guy. And we had you guys out this year and on an incredible night trip. with 761. That was a great ride. And that was an incredible evening. And the thing that is important that we need to do is we need to keep that alive. We all know that we're getting older. Hey, I'm going to be 65 in February. And we need to have more of our young folks engaged and keep this alive, because the TMERNL, most of our track is original, and it goes back, there's dates on the rail, 1898, 1906, 1902. And we got to keep this alive. And it's organizations like you, it's organizations like us that I have 5 grandchildren. And then when they're 25, 30, 40, we need to keep this stuff going. And we need to recruit some young folks to have them know the value, because way back in 1972, there was some rail guys that were working with trains and they needed some place to operate them. And they came out to East Troy. Had they not done that, we wouldn't be here. So let's keep it going. We're excited about your 75th anniversary. We got to make that a big splash. We've got to make, I know that there's a lot of people that have told me, hey, Jim, you're just running an amusement ride. It's more than that. It's not Ravinia, which we know the North Shore started. It is enjoyable. It's a lot of fun, but there's a lot of history to it, and there's a lot of passion around it. And again, we're very thankful to you folks for keeping us going. So I don't know if that's about enough. That's about 20 minutes, isn't it? It's perfect. Perfect. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. And highball.
Okay. Thank you.
So I'm Mike Yuhas, former past president of Wisconsin chapter, and to my left here, you're going to have to scooch over here so people, because I don't want to move the computer, because that's just going to make everything go blank again. So that's Ward Wells, and we have a presentation here that looks at all 3 NRHS national events from 2024. But before we get into that, we are going to surprise Keith and Tara. Tara standing in for Dan. Back a couple weeks ago, I asked you guys if I could borrow a couple of pictures from you, and I didn't tell you what they were for. I just said, you got to trust me on this. And you may know I'm involved with the NRHS National. One of my committees that I'm on is the Outstanding Railroad Historic Preservation Award Committee. And I needed some photos to honor our honoree. And you guys had the best pictures. So we made this presentation on Friday, the 11th of October at the Railway Supply Institute conference in Chicago. This is the presentation that we gave during the ceremony. The award is in conjunction with Railway Age and Railway Track and Structures, and of course, NRHS. And this presentation just really quickly tells you a little bit about the award and the purpose behind it and the thought behind it. And we announced the winner at the NRHS, or at the Railway Supply Institute conference. And the winner is Union Pacific in recognition of its heritage program. And so it's a big thing. And so we have a few photos here that we borrowed from Dan and from Keith on some historical UP assets to illustrate this award. So this I stole from Dan. He told me it was okay. The big boy in Bain, Wisconsin. Here's one of my shots of the big boy. This is Terry Rediker's shot at the big meet there in 2019 in Ogden. Steve Glashinsky's shot of the 844, and a couple of representative shots of the UP Heritage diesel fleet. The Katy unit just coming out of the paint shop, just being delivered to UP. Dan took this picture at Rochelle of the Mopac unit. Keith took this shot at just a few miles from here, right down the road over the Milwaukee River, just a few weeks ago. So this was very fortuitous that you were able to do that, Keith. And here's one of my shots of the Northwestern Heritage Unit at Rochelle. So we got to congratulate Railway Age, and I wanted to thank Keith and Dan for the use of their photos. We'll continue on with the main event here. Thank you for letting us go into that little outside thing there. And so what Ward and I will do here is we're going to look at the three national events: the spring conference, the annual convention, and the fall conference, with photos mostly by W. Ward Wells, H. Michael Yuhas, and R. Douglas Scott. Doug couldn't be with us tonight, but I know he's probably going to check in with us later. But interesting that all three of us use our middle names, but so we go. So the first thing we're going to look at is this NRHS Spring Conference in Cedar Rapids. The itinerary was a day of meetings, of which everybody loves meetings. And it was just the Advisory Council and the National Board of Directors meeting on Cinco de Mayo. And then on Monday, and that evening, we also had a film presentation by Mitch Dackelman. That evening, the next day, we got a tour of Iowa Interstate. We went to their headquarters in Cedar Rapids. We rode an inspection trip from South Amana, Iowa, to Silvis, Illinois. And then since we were in Silvis, and thanks to Kate Cradfield-Wrin's help, we were able to get a tour of Railroading Heritage of Midwest America, the shop in Silvis. Yeah. So we started off on the street in Cedar Rapids, outside the Iowa Interstate headquarters. And on our left is Tom Meyerhoff, who is the gentleman who kind of shepherded all of our activities on the Iowa Interstate train. In the center is Henry Posner, chairman of Iowa Interstate and Railroad Development Corp. And on the right is Rachel Malley, who is the National Executive Director for Operation Lifesaver. So now the really neat thing about this arrangement here was Iowa Interstate didn't want to charge us anything for this wonderful experience they were giving us. They said, however, we would really like you to make a meaningful donation to an organization that's involved with railroad safety. So we made a donation to Operation Lifesaver. And that's why Rachel was there. Neal Payton took this shot inside the headquarters. They had taken some former Rock Island station signs and put them up on the wall in the new headquarters building in Cedar Rapids. Here's this Tom Faywell painting that they had commissioned when they were when Iowa Interstate was buying their new General Electric locomotives. Have a huge blow up of this on the wall by their cafeteria. Tom Faywell did a lot of this art for Electromotive, so I think this was the first time he ever actually painted a GE. Yeah. So Doug Scott got this shot of the dispatching center, and then Ward actually got right up behind him.
A little bit closer there. Yeah, I thought it was very interesting. Is it working? Yeah, there you go. I thought it was interesting that they were using windy.com, which is for their weather awareness, which is a software that a website that a lot of us use to, amateurs.
Oh.
It's not showed on this shot. But it's on there.
Windy.
Windy.
Yeah, windy. So we had a job briefing at the South Amana shop. This is the Dennis E. Miller Locomotive Maintenance Facility, named after the departed, well, he retired a couple of years ago, the president of Iowa Interstate. And job safety briefing there, you see Tom is back in there, Henry's in there, and we're getting the rundown. A couple of these are Doug Scott pictures. That's the locomotive, GP38, the 702 that was having some work done. Now, this building was built specifically to repair the GEs because they're longer and there was no other long enough shop on the Iowa Interstate to repair them indoors. So they built this. But here it was loaded with the Jeeps.
Yeah, Jeeps, yeah. Very, very clean. Very, very clean.
Very clean, true enough. And should point out the dignitaries in this photo. The gentleman in the gray jacket is Tony White. He's the president of National Railway Historical Society. The gentleman in the check shirt directly behind him is Bob Ernst, who is the president of the NRHS Fund. The gentleman in the red hat is Mitch Dackelman, who is the chair of the Film Preservation Group at NRHS. And then the fourth gentleman is Kevin Feeney. He's a director, and he's also the controller of NRHS. So Doug took a couple of shots in the yard here of some Iowa Interstate locomotives. And in the bright sun like this Rock Island inspired paint scheme looks just incredible.
Yeah, beautiful, beautiful day.
So here is our presentation of the check. We made a ceremonial check to present to Operation Lifesaver. There's Tony, Rachel from Operation Lifesaver, Eric Fogg, who was the co-convention conspirator, conference conspirator, and then me, who was the other co-conference conspirator, and Henry Posner. We're on the back stoop of the back platform of the Hawkeye, which is the business car on Iowa Interstate. The train consisted of 3 cars. It was a table car, what was it? What was the second car? What was the configuration? I'm drawing a blank. You were there.
There were 2 tables, weren't there?
Well, maybe I guess there were 2 tables, and then this business car. So this is Ward's shot. You want to explain this one?
Oh, yeah. So we stopped in Iowa City downtown there and got out and were able to see a run by there of one of the AIS trains go by.
Right. Yeah. This is the Council Bluffs to going to Council Bluffs, Blue Island to Council Bluffs train is what we're seeing there. And I put the drone up and I got a very similar shot. And Ward's been looking for himself. He thinks he's outside of the frame of this picture, so don't look too hard for him. But the really neat thing is Doug Scott actually took a picture of my drone when I was taking a picture of that. And then this was the DPU.
Yeah, this was the Rock Island Heritage Unit that was trailing the train that came by us there.
So that was kind of neat.
Yeah, really pretty.
And I don't remember who took this picture, but it wasn't me. It was probably with my camera, but that's me enjoying the cushions and being tended to by the chairman of Iowa Interstate, Henry Posner. He wears the safety vest, and if you've seen him on a train, you know what it says. If you don't, you will now. It says complaint department. Very unique.
Yeah, neat guy. Really neat guy.
Very neat guy. Very generous that he allowed us and gave us this opportunity to hold our conference event on the Iowa Interstate. We were limited to only 50 participants. Just that's how many they could digest on their train, and they fed us. And it was just a phenomenal experience. And after that, we got down to Silvis, and Steve Sandberg gave us a tour of railroading heritage in the Midwest America. And that's Steve there talking to Kevin Feeney, Tony White. And look at that. I have a big ceremonial check that I'm going to present as well to them. So, and here, in fact, here we are with the ceremonial check. And Tony is handing Kate the actual check. and Steve and I and Tony are holding this ceremonial check, and Eric, our co-conference conspirator is on the side there as well. But it was a good experience, a fantastic day for us because Steve and company just showed us a good time at Silvis and showed us some of the work that they're doing. And one of the things they're doing is they're working on this Union Pacific Santa Fe type, the 5511, which, you know, this had just been sitting around for a long time. Nothing had ever been happening to it. It looks like it's being restored now. These are Doug Scott photos taken on the premises there. And a shot of the 3985 with the cab removed because they're I guess refluing, and they're doing a lot of boiler work to this. It needs it apparently to this stalwart Union Pacific engine, which was donated to them by Union Pacific. Because Union Pacific, their attention, I think, was more directed to the big boy.
Just the cab of 3985 sitting off to the side. I thought it was a pretty nice little shot to take.
That's Ward's picture. Yeah. This is very tender. It's supple, and that's how tender this tender is. I think this is actually Kate, is this for the big boy? Yep. Thank you. It's a auxiliary tender for the big boy that our HMA was refurbishing. And here are we forming a crown sheet here? Is that what we're doing? They were actually doing some real work when we got there, and it's just fascinating to see that the 1940s era steam locomotives, they're building new parts for them from scratch.
Yeah, they were turning that thing centimeter by centimeter and measuring and adjusting. Really neat.
UP Centennial was sitting in there. It was one of the things that UP gave to them some years ago. And then the next event this year was our NRHS annual convention. This was a 5-day. Well, look at the itinerary. 5 days of stuff happening based in and around Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. We went to Strasburg. We went to the East Broad Top. Then we had a day of meetings. We love meetings. A day on the Reading and Northern, and a day on the Middletown and Hummelstown and question mark. So, you know, part of the fun of these is just actually the travel to get there. So on my travel day, I actually stopped off in Monaca, Pennsylvania. It's on the Ohio River, a little north and west of Pittsburgh, because I figured, you know, I'm also big into taking pictures of trains, but also marine subjects as well. So I was hoping to get some barge pictures there. This is the P&LE bridge over the Ohio River. This is from a Google Street Map picture. I happened to be there when the Street Map guy went by, and I thought, will my dream of somehow getting captured by the Google Street Map vehicle be realized? And yes, I am. Yeah.
Look at that.
That's me, blurred and all, sitting in the shade on a really hot day under the P&LE bridge in Monaca, Pennsylvania. And my waiting paid off because I actually did see a train. It had NS power. It's a CSX train, but there is an eastbound crossing the Ohio River into Monaca, Pennsylvania. Just kind of happened on the spot, and nothing happening on the river, but at least I saw a train. So we started the convention. The first day was a day at Strasburg, which included two railroad stops, Strasburg Railroad, and then we went across the street to the Railroad Museum of Pennsylvania, and then we had an early dinner. This is all of us getting on the bus at Harrisburg. So we got there kind of early, and they were still kind of shuffling cars around. As you see, they do a freight business as well. This is the Canadian National locomotive getting ready for the day's train. We were on the first train out that morning, and a former, I'm guessing this is a former New York Central switcher, switching some cars around as well. But this directly under the drone here is the train we were going to be on. To the left is the station, and to the left on the other side of the highway there is the Railroad Museum of Pennsylvania. You see their equipment back in through there. It was classy that they put a nice little sign out, welcome to NRHS. I upgraded to the first class seating. It was worth the extra couple bucks. But I naturally had to take a picture of that. So then after our train ride, which you don't have any real pictures of that, we got to, oh yes, I do actually have one picture of I think it was the next train coming in. After that, we walked across the street. We had a box lunch that we ate in the shade here. We walked across the street to the Railroad Museum of Pennsylvania and got to walk through and see some of their artifacts. A beautiful museum. Inside stuff is impeccable. There's this catwalk that goes over the top of everything, and just lovingly restored and pristine equipment. There's a GG1 here, and looking behind that, there's an E44. So the stuff in the backyard is maybe a little rusty, but inside it's just stunning. And of course, you can wander around on the floor here as well. A Conrail Jeep 30, and here's a Penske E8. And so we had a couple hours to explore the museum, and it's a very nice museum, and I'd recommend you go there if you ever have the opportunity. We were there on a Tuesday. They're normally closed on a Tuesday, but they opened for us. And then after we were done here, we went up to East Earl, and we went to the Shady Maple Buffet, which is like one of the largest Amish buffets in existence. I took a couple of grab shots here of the inside of the buffet. This probably encaptures maybe not even a quarter of it. I mean, it's gigantic. It's absolutely huge. And you see there's people waiting online. No, I don't think any of these people are with us. Pretty sure they're not with us, but it's a buffet. You can eat all you want. And so naturally, many of us really did get our money's worth there. So that night, there was a seminar. Dan Cupper gave us a great presentation on East Broad Top. Dan has documented East Broad Top for Trains Magazine for several years. He told us about that work that he's done, and also prior work in Trains Magazine. And I don't actually have a picture of Dan here, but I wanted to get this one shot here to say that we actually had more than the required 34 maximum capacity in the room. We were jammed in there, but everybody loved it, and that's during his presentation. Well, next day we went to the East Broad Top and the Rock Hill Trolley Museum in Orbisonia and Rock Hill Furnace. That's our three buses. Had great bus drivers, great service from Innovative, and Al Weber, former president of NRHS, in the straw hat. Maybe some of you recognize him talking to the bus drivers. Do you know Al? Yeah. And so I had the drone with me, and I put the drone up and I got to fly it around a little bit. And so this is the shop complex that was not touched by time, just kind of left there and preserved by the Friends of the East Broad Top. You know there's a big history of what's happened with this railroad. It was bought by a scrapper because a scrapper, saw a lot of scrap value in it. But he also saw that there's a lot of history here. So the Kowalczyk scrap people never really did scrap it. They actually ran it for tourist railroads service up until about 2011. And it's just been sitting dormant for all that time. And then a couple of years ago, a consortium of people, including Bennett Levin, Lynn Motinger, Wick Mormon, and the aforementioned Henry Posner all got together and said, "No, we really have to do something with this." And so they're raising all kinds of money, and they're pouring all kinds of money into the physical plant. Now, the day we were there, for most of this summer, their steam engine was down. But it's been undergoing repairs, and we got to see it. Some of us got to see it. It's not quite ready for prime time. I think they are using it now, but back in August, it wasn't running. So, but we did see a little plume of smoke coming out from the roundhouse there. This is the train we got to ride on. It's a little tiny diesel on their narrow gauge. And these are new passenger cars. These were just very recently built, or at least the first two of them were very recently built for the East Broadtop. So we went north on the line as far as we could go, and we turned the train, and then it came down and came back down. We got our lunch, and there's a bunch of people eating lunch. Look at that. And it was actually a good box lunch. If I do say so myself, we ate quite royally on this convention. So I flew the drone around a little bit, and I flew across the street and got a couple of shots of the Rock Hill Trolley Museum here. We got to ride on them as well, including in this York Railways car. Now, by this point, it had gotten really excruciatingly hot. Somebody said it was pretty darn close to 100 Fahrenheit. And I think that's very, very close to being accurate. There was a little breeze when we were on this car, and it went 20 miles an hour. So that cooled us off for a minute. So after this, our group got to walk through the shop complex of East Broadtop. I didn't take any pictures. Again, I was really hot, and I wanted to leave there early. I did leave early, so I could get a shot of the East Broadtop passenger train coming back with the drone and the Sunoco station in the background. So now that was our day at East Broadtop. Then we drove back to our hotel in Harrisburg, and we had a fantastic presentation that evening by Chris Gawedzinski, who's vice president at Amtrak, in charge of a whole mess of things. I can't tell you what, because there's just so many things that he does. But he's right now working on provisioning the new Acela train sets. And he has this incredible knowledge of the Pennsylvania Railroad electrification. So he gave us a presentation on that. And here he is, talking to all the people that flooded him after the talk, because everybody had questions and wanted to shake his hand. It was a neat thing, neat event. On Thursday, we had meetings. We had the advisory council meeting. And, I got to tell you about the advisory council. Up until October, I was the Wisconsin chapter national representative to the advisory council. As you may know, every chapter has a voice in the national. It's through the advisory council. I was that guy. I actually became ineligible to be the advisory council rep because I got elected to the national NRHS board. Can't do both. So I would like to give a shout out to Dan Grudzelanek for volunteering to be the new Wisconsin chapter NRHS national representative. So, but he wasn't here. And I don't have any photos of this day, but ask me about Harris Tower.
What about Harris Tower?
Thank you. Thank you for asking. Again, I don't have any photos, but the Harrisburg chapter has two projects involving real estate. One is the power director's office that had been in the Pennsylvania Railroad station there in Harrisburg. It's like time when Amtrak walked away from it a few years ago, when they cut over to the new system. They left this old 1930s and 40s electrification equipment. It's amazing, and it's open to the public. You can go there. And then they also have Harris Tower, which was donated to them by Amtrak. It, in its day, controlled up to like 3,400 feet of track right around Harrisburg's depot, and anywhere from 4 tracks wide to 16 tracks wide. So it was a very busy tower. And again, just left in perfect shape when Amtrak locked the door for the last time. And so what the wizards at Harrisburg chapter have done, and this is really, truly amazing, and I apologize for not having pictures because I was having too much fun. They let you go up there and work the tower. And they actually have a computer simulation So when they tell you what to do, you're actually, the board, a phantom train is going to follow your movements across the board. You're there. It's fantastic. Go there and give them a nice donation because they deserve it. Harrisburg chapter, Harris Tower. Words can't really and their docents, if they can tell that you're into it, like Jim will be when he goes there, they're just going to keep throwing more and more stuff at you, and it keeps getting better and better and better. So it's really neat. So that's all about Harris Tower. So Friday we had a day on the Reading and Northern. They have a fleet of 3 RDCs. We had all 3 of them. We went from Outer Station in Reading up to Minersville, and we had a stop at Port Clinton on the way back. And Bud cars are just the coolest thing ever. And just to see 3 of them running is really kind of a neat thing. And so here we are at Minersville. They told us not to cross the tracks or across the street because it's a busy road and cars are going and zooming by and stuff. They didn't want anybody to get run over, but we had the lunch catered that day. There is a steam engine, a CNJ steam engine that's operational, actually. It wasn't operating that day, but they were working on it the day we were there. Parked at Minersville, and I think it's a privately owned steam engine, but it's parked there, and they run it every once in a while. And I don't know if you can tell, but right on the fireman's side of the RDC cab there's a guy in a Hawaiian shirt. Yeah, that's me.
Who is that?
Yeah, that's me. The guy in the red hat, that's Mitch Dackelman again from the NRHS Film Preservation Committee, and I'm not sure who's standing behind him, but we're mugging for my camera there. I know I didn't cross the street, but my drone did. So we had a couple of run-bys, and this one's at West Cressona, and this one was in Sparks and Cinders this month. Thank you, Keith. That was kind of cool. And here it is, the going away shot, which shows the photo line and the Reading and Northern SD 40s that just happen to be sitting there, including one just very fairly recently painted. But it was a fun day. Another shot of our day on the RDCs. This is a new bike trail, I guess, that some, we were all walking on to get there. And this is crossing the Schuylkill River up near, not far from Port Clinton, Pennsylvania. This is the Reading and Northern Steam Shop at Port Clinton with a Reading and Northern switcher out front, but 2102 on the inside there. Now, this is a beautiful locomotive. And of course, it wasn't steamed up or anything, but it was nice. They had some lights set up on the driving gear so we could take some pictures. And they had a step ladder going up, a stairway going up to the cab. Anybody could go up there who wanted to. So they rolled out the red carpet for us. That cab that you see on the right-hand side there, that's the cab of the 425, another one of the steam locomotives that's undergoing restoration right now. 425 in the foreground and the 2102 in the background. Then we got on the RDCs and we went back to Reading, and then we had our bus back to Harrisburg. That night we had some films from Mitch Dackelman, and the next day we were supposed to go on the Middletown and Hummelstown and the Northern Central Railway of York, and it was going to be a really long day. It was going to start at like 7:30 in the morning and go to like 6:30 at night. And I'm thinking, gee whiz, after these last 4 days, I'm pretty well exhausted. And I thought, I don't know how I'm going to make this entire day. Well, the night before, John Goodman, the NRHS convention chair, had gotten a call from the Northern Central and said, you know what, we can't take you tomorrow. We don't have a locomotive. And we knew that their steam engine wasn't going to be running, but they had a diesel. Yeah, the diesel went lame. So they told us not to come. So that was a disappointment. So we figured we'd stay a little bit longer on the Middletown and Hummelstown. And I think we did. And then come back early to the hotel. So at the Middletown and Hummelstown, we had a street running experience with a freight train that they put together for us using a Western Maryland S6 switcher. And again, this is a shot with a drone, but you see all of the delegates taking their pictures. Andy Ottinger, who's vice president of the Harrisburg chapter, and he's a volunteer at the Middletown and Hummelstown, walking the street, making sure nobody gets run over by the train. This is Doug Scott's picture of Andy walking ahead of the train. And this is the train going past the iconic Cuppy's Diner in downtown Middletown, Pennsylvania. I think this is also in cover of Sparks and Cinders. And off and to the very far right there in the beige t-shirt, that is Doug Scott, who's taking some of these photos for this presentation today. So, and then we had 2 run-bys with the passenger equipment. Former DNLW electric commuter coaches. So from there, they took us back to the hotel, but this is where the NRHS Convention Committee did a really great thing. We knew that we weren't going to be able to go to Northern Central, but they found that Williams Grove, the Williams Grove Steam Historical Association, was actually having their STEAM weekend that weekend. And they took us back to the hotel, but they said, you know, don't go too far. Get back on the bus. We'll go to Williams Grove. And I was not one that went to Williams Grove because I had some other things I wanted to do on my own. But those who did got treated to a really amazing thing. The only Pennsylvania Railroad steam engine in steam right now was running that day. It's an 060. So it's not huge mainline steam, but it was running. Doug Scott got a few photos of that. And they also had tractors, all kinds of tractors. Keith, you would have been in heaven. You should have gone. The NRHS convention. See, I gotta say, I'm very, very proud of the National Railway Historical Society, because when you think of the society, the last name of the organization is Society. And this is where you have a gathering of all kinds of people that you get to know after doing it for, a couple cycles. And it becomes a really wonderful, warm, friendly gathering for folks. But they had some steam tractors, and where you have steam tractors, you have to have Amish people. And Doug had such a great eye for catching this shot, and I'm glad he did. But this whole line of steam tractors there, Keith, you're going there next year. Yeah, he's shaking his head. He's all over this now. So, but you know what I did? I actually started my journey home. I had $150 worth of parking I had to pay in the hotel downtown Harrisburg. But I wanted to get on the road because I had, kind of a long way home, and it was Labor Day weekend, and been gone for a week. And this was right after our NRHS Wisconsin chapter trip on East Troy. So, got home that night after East Troy. Then the first thing in the morning, I got up and hit the road going out to Harrisburg. Well, now I'm doing it in reverse. So, but I had some things in mind to do on the way back, including I stayed at the Bridgeview Bed and Breakfast in Marysville, Pennsylvania, that has a view of the Rockville Bridge. And of course, I had the drone, so naturally, I had to fly the thing up and down the bridge. Here's the train coming out of Enola Yard, waiting for this ethanol empty to pass. And there it is, finally going out of the yard. The beige, whitish building, gray building right above the head of the front cab and nose of the unit is the Bridgeview Bed and Breakfast. And I'm sitting on the porch flying the drone. And there were a lot of trains, and then it started raining. But the next day, we had some nice weather, at least for a short time. before the puffy clouds started rolling in. Nickel plate heritage units second out, always, it would be nice, always, it would be nice and yeah, but. And here's the Pennsylvanian along the Juniata River. I got banged by clouds, and you see how in the background there, there's plenty of beautiful sunlight, but not for the train. That was the story of my life there. This is at Gawedzinski, and there's a train coming out of the tunnel. You can't really tell because it's in shadow, but I had to share it with you just because there's a train going into the tunnel at Gawedzinski. Kind of a neat place, a very famous place on the Pennsy. And so the next day I ended up going back to Monaca on the Ohio River, and I did see a barge and a tow, and this is the Lincoln Thomas with a couple of loads of probably limestone going upbound on the Ohio River. Lincoln Thomas. So this is my other thing, is taking pictures of boats. You'll see more pictures of these at mikeyuhas.org if anybody's interested. And I saw a CSX train actually led by CSX Power crossing the former PNLE bridge. And then I eventually got home. Okay, part 3 of this is the fall conference, which just happened last month, just a couple weeks ago in Wilmington, Delaware. So the first day was an excursion on the Woodstown Central and a tour of the SMS Rail Lines Baldwin House. And then, when you hear the term Baldwin House, you think of the Tammy Baldwin campaign signs in front of the house no, it's not that. This is where they maintain their fleet of Baldwin locomotives on SMS. Woodstown Central is a project of SMS. And I wanted desperately to go to this, but so here's the thing. I told you about our NRHS award for the historic preservation, and we gave it to Union Pacific. Bill Vantuano, who is the editor of Railway Age, when we determined who the winner was, he sent his contacts at Union Pacific a note. They were delighted to receive this honor. And we said we would like to present this to you at the RSI conference on October 10th, because I needed to be here in New Jersey on the 11th. And so the first person to reply to Bill's email, and we're all copied on it, that first morning, I get an email from Jim Vena, who is the president of UP. And he says, "Oh, wow, we're so excited to get this award, but can't do the Thursday, has to be Friday." I said, "Oh, okay, well, when Jim Vena says you do Friday, you do Friday." So that's what I was doing. And then on Saturday, we had meetings. And this was the presentation of the award at the RSI conference. That's me handing it to, well, Jim Vena couldn't make it, as it happens. Yeah. That's Josh Perks. He's a executive vice president with Union Pacific and head of human resources. And on my left is Mary Beth Luchak, who is the executive editor of Railway Age. So this was, we were lined up in size order, by the way, as you see. So that's why I couldn't make any of the festivities. Now, Ward was also at the meeting, but you had some other things that you couldn't go for the, so these photos here are taken by a couple other folks. Like this picture is taken by Ron Gawedzinski, who is from the St. Louis chapter, of people getting on the coaches at the Woodstown station. Nicely restored coaches, as you'll see. It seems like a very nice class act. Another one of Ron's pictures. This is a Doug Scott photo of a run by along a lake. It's just, South Jersey actually does have some scenery. Who knew, huh? Right? Another one of Doug Scott's photos, and a run by with a little bit of smoke coming out of the Baldwin. These Baldwins, they keep them running really, really well. So that was the first part of the day. The second day part of the day was a tour of the SMS shop at the Pure Land Industrial Park, and they got to ride on a little coach through the industrial park to see some of the industrial switching that they do in this compact area with Baldwins from the 1950s. Just an amazing thing. And they got to see some of that's the car that they rode in, open window car, and that's on that car. That's actually Doug Scott in there. I know a few of these people here. Ron Gawedzinski took this picture. Tony White's in there. That's right. And then they got to walk all throughout the shop complex. So this was supposed to be the star of the Woodstown Central train, but it wasn't quite restored yet. But this number 9, it's been under, I don't remember the heritage of this locomotive. It's under restoration for a while. This is Doug's picture on this side, and that one is Ron Gawedzinski's picture from the other side. And Ron, I think this Doug took this picture of I think this is an AS 616, the 557, I believe it was. I actually rode on this unit back in 2015, and it rode well. The paint looked terrible, but they're giving it a full overhaul right now. And they have all these other kind of derelict Baldwins in the backyard, just waiting for their chance. But some of them are still, they're running. So they restored one of them and painted it up in Baltimore and Ohio colors, and another one in Pensy colors. These are Doug's pictures. This FP7 is formerly a Reading unit. It was donated, I think, to the Philadelphia chapter, NRHS. They had it for many years. They never really did much for it. I'm a member of the NRHS Philadelphia chapter since 1985. I don't think they may have taken it on one fan trip in all that time. But they got an offer from SMS to buy it. And so they sold it to SMS. And SMS also ended up with a 902, which was owned by the Reading Company Historical and Technical Society. I'm not sure if this is sold outright or just on a lease, but that was kind of neat. The next day was meetings. And so I had to take a picture of, everybody at the advisory, or I forget which meeting this was, but if you look really, really hard in the background there, talking to the guy standing in front of him with the red shirt, it's Ward Wells.
Whatever that means. Yeah.
So we were both there for all the fun of the meetings. Yeah. So it was good meetings. Yeah, exactly. Now, I should mention that Ward has been named as the assistant treasurer of the National Railway Historical Society. So, I mean, there's some talent here in this room. So. And, and that's what we did. And then Mitch had some films that night too that were really, really cool. He brings a 16 millimeter projector that has a loudspeaker, and my God, I felt like I was in high school again. Yeah. It was just, you don't ever see films projected like this. You see YouTubes, right? Well, no, he brings 16 millimeter films and shows them. It's fantastic. It's a throwback and totally in keeping with what the NRHS is all about. Well, so the next day I went home, and so I got a couple of pictures of my train going home. I took a Northeast Regional from Wilmington. This is it, to Washington, D.C. I had my little GPS unit to see how fast we were going. We were going 124 miles an hour, which was really cool. Yeah, we were cooking. And then when I got to DC, I got to go into the Metropolitan Lounge because I had a sleeper accommodation on the Capitol, and not very many people there yet, but it did get crowded before the Capitol Limited took off. And here is the Capitol Limited. Terrible picture, but that's, I'm looking directly into the sun, and the train is in the dark shed. Well, anyway. So this was the train, and I had a sleeping car. And to give you a sense of, we had a full diner on the car, but not full dining service. No, it came in a cardboard box, and it didn't taste like cardboard. Actually, it tasted far better than cardboard, but I don't know if you can tell, but on that left-hand box, there's like little bits of salad. I wrestled with trying to get the salad open, and I opened it from the bottom up, and it spilled all over the place. But the brownie wasn't that bad. The mayonnaise wasn't bad. So, but yeah, see, it's warmed up. But you know, it was better than Ritz crackers. I'll say, and I love Ritz crackers, but not for dinner. Next morning, it's a Bialy sandwich. But so with the reconfiguration of the Capital Limited, now that it's going to be going through, maybe Dave Rasmussen knows something about this, but you don't know. Okay, so it's going to be running through from Chicago through DC down to Florida, and supposedly they're talking, rumored to have a full service diner on it again, which would be so much better than this. Well, anyway, so I got to Chicago, and then while I was waiting for the Borealis train, which was crowded beyond belief from Chicago to Milwaukee, because I just came off of a first class train, I got to use the first class lounge there. And this is cool. I went up to the Pennsylvania floor of the Metropolitan Lounge in Chicago Union Station, and beautiful large Broadway limited photo on the wall and a David Plowden book on the coffee table. It was just awesome. And there I am saying goodbye. Does anybody have any questions or anything? That is it.
I have a question for you, Mike.
Yes, Brian, go ahead with your question.
Hey, I don't think you can go back to it, but you showed a photo from your drone from your first trip, passenger train. I think it was the East Broadtop, or no, it was Strasburg. I'm sorry, it was in Strasburg. Was that a Wisconsin and Southern covered hopper that was behind it? I
Yes.
thought I saw
Yes.
those reporting, Mark.
Yeah, you're correct. A good catch on that. Yes. Of the covered hoppers that were sitting there, one of them was a Wisconsin and Southern car.
So you went all the way to Pennsylvania to see something you could have seen here.
I could have. I did.
Great point, Brian.
Yeah, I did.
No, I just thought that was kind of cool and kind of
Yeah.
unique. So, no, excellent presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Keith? Well, I guess, oh, that's right. Don't forget to sit, tomorrow night, fall back. This is where, remember, we got gypped out of an hour back in spring. Well, we get it back this weekend. So don't forget that. There's cake and punch in the background. Next month's meeting is what?
Yeah.
Bob
Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
All right. This is Doug Scott. I had an awful hard time getting my phone to connect to Zoom tonight, but thanks, Mike, for all the, it was a nice presentation. I enjoyed seeing my pictures shown by somebody else.
Thank you, Doug Scott, everybody from the Cape Cod chapter who contributed so many photos to this presentation tonight.
Yeah,
Doug, you're getting a big round of applause downstairs here.
All right. I'm currently in Williams, Arizona, and rode the Grand Canyon Railway today.
Oh, good for you.
And I did the 29-26 photo shoot last Tuesday in Albuquerque.
Wow, beautiful.
So anyhow, thanks again for using the pictures, Mike. I appreciate it.
Thank you again for sending them our way. The program was all the better for it. We do appreciate it.
Anytime. All right, I'm going to leave and go get dinner because hours are off from what you guys are. So have a good evening. Okay, good night. So next month is December 6th is our, as Keith says, St. Nicholas Day. Bob Gallegos will be presenting a program for us next month. So we'll want to be here for that. Thank you all for attending. We're going to shut her down for tonight, and good night, everybody.